If you haven't seen it already, there's a new piece of public art popping up around our community. It's called the Lebanon Story Booth, and it wants to hear from you. The team behind this effort, Anita Gordon, Missy Krulik, and Corey Kutz, join us for this episode. We find out how they came up with the idea and how well it's been received so far. Episode 219 of the Lovin' Lebanon podcast starts now.
Welcome to the Lovin' Lebanon podcast, highlighting all the great things happening in Lebanon, Indiana. Have an idea for an episode? Send an email to lovinlebanon@lebanon.in.gov.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 219 of our Lovin' Lebanon podcast. Joe LePage here, the City of Lebanon Communications and Community Development Director. We are three wide as far as guests go this time around our small circular table here at 401 South Meridian. We're talking about the Lebanon Story Booth, and all four of the people that helped put this sucker together are here on this podcast. We've got Missy Krulik, we've got Anita Gordon, and we've got Corey Kutz here on the pod. Guys, thanks so much for joining us this episode.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We were joking, everybody, before we hit record, like, okay, we're going to kind of go through and talk about how this whole thing happened and yada yada. And then there was a pregnant pause of, it's been like a year. How did this whole thing happen? So we had to kind of recap this. And so you may see on the graphic, there's the Indiana Arts Commission helped with grant funding to help make the story booth happen. But it was unveiled at the last market. So this is airing 1 week from the opening of the Lebanon Story Booth. And Missy and Anita, you guys were there. A retrofitted phone booth. What did you guys think about how it all came together and how it was for the public?
From my perspective, they really enjoyed it. We ended up having quite a different crowd than we were expecting. A lot of the kids were willing to participate immediately. We weren't expecting so much of the youth to participate, and that was great to see.
Yeah, it was nice to see the market goers come out, and they're very curious about what the booth was. Like, walked up to us and said, "What is this? What's going on?" And so it was just fun to share with them about the story booth and that it was an old phone booth. I remember in middle school getting in one of those and calling my mom to have her come and get me and pick me up from the sports practice. So it's just fun to see generations that are under us say, "What is this?" And I mean, when you say Superman, everyone knows the phone booth, or Doctor Who.
Yeah,
is that who it is?
Yeah. And it was one of the funnier things for me was at that market where someone mentioned Superman, and one of the kids like looked at the adult that said that, like, "What are you talking?" No, back in the day, that Clark Kent would go in and then and there he was, Superman. And so the guy that drove up to get this sucker, we were looking for on Marketplace, trying to find a phone booth. What was that moment like, Corey, where it was where it kind of showed on the story booth to be able to get that thing?
Yeah, surprisingly, this new technology called a phone booth is super easy to come by. So we actually were searching around Marketplace for, it was 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, somewhere in that ballpark, and finally one popped up that was reasonably priced, and I was like, yeah, you know what, this one will work. It's metal, looks sturdy, looks great, and right underneath it says, "I'm in Waterloo, Wisconsin," and I was like, you know what, why not road trip?
And so you drove up, picked up the thing in one day, and came right back.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow. And so if we back up a little bit, you may see the pictures, everybody. And right now, the story booth is just outside the Lebanon Public Library. It will be moving. It's a moving, not exactly easily done, but it is movable, and will be at Battle of the Barbecue coming up in August. And so that's where that'll be the next stop on the tour. This all came about kind of organically. If we can kind of back up a little bit, Indiana Arts Commission asked Lebanon to host this creative convergence they were having. And so at the Herman B. Wells Center, we were all there, and they invited us. Well, since you're hosting, might as well have a Lebanon squad be there. And so this thing kind of organically all came about, and kind of throwing it up to anyone. The whole goal of this whole story booth effort is connectivity and share everyone, as the story booth says, sharing your Lebanon story. That's kind of how that organically happened. If you can look back in time.
Yeah. So, the Arts Commission was really talking about public art and how the public can engage the art. And what better way to engage art than literally go inside of it, right? So, that was a little over a year ago at this point, and we were in a position where there was a lot of new things happening in the city of Lebanon, and how can we engage the new and honor the history. So that's really the thought process behind it, is how can we bridge that gap, and how can we get someone to tell their story about how they got here into Lebanon, whether they were born here, half a century ago, or if they just moved to town last year. So really a connectivity and bringing folks together from across the city.
Yeah, and I know you guys, you either deal with people who are born and raised here and have never moved anywhere else, and I think one member of our team is around that table now, and there are some of us that kind of stumbled upon Lebanon. We with you guys, Missy, just kind of cute little town, and for us it's in between Lafayette and Indy, and so we'll just split the difference there. We'll live here for 5 minutes, and decade or so later, things change, and so it needed along the same lines. But they're just kind of connecting people and having kind of the energy of we have more in common than we are our differences, and so that type of thing. Right?
Yeah, I think with the 2-day, we had to attend 2 days of classes all day, learning about public art, learning about how to engage the public with your public art, and some of the pitfalls of public art. So it was a great class, great conversation, great collaboration, hearing from other cities on what they've done, and real life examples. So yeah, I think, like Corey said, it was just a way for people's voices to be heard, and that's what this exhibit is all about, is hearing the community's stories and giving them a voice to that. So it's interesting, creative. We've got some great artwork on there that Anita did. So, and people don't generally think about storytelling as art. You think about murals, you think about sculptures, but storytelling is a beautiful art form, and something that we can also celebrate through this story booth.
Absolutely.
In that spoken word category, that type of thing. Anita, what has it been like for you to kind of see the artistic expression kind of evolve here in Lebanon? I know that there are some pieces that have been, history-wise we've taken a look at, but as far as new art, that really hasn't happened, but that's starting to pick up with some murals and now spoken word that this chance here. As an artist and someone that goes around and has experiences in other communities, what's it like for you to see Lebanon kind of get the ball rolling in that way?
Yes, this is so exciting. This element is actually very new from my perspective as well. I see a lot of the murals, as you mentioned, pop up. And it's so creative to have the visual arts in there. And I love the steps that we're taking. Lebanon has been doing a great job of getting public arts out there in that format. But to see this audio version pop up too, and people have that interactive, they're not just stepping in front of a mural, taking a picture. They actually have to share their story. They have to step inside. They have to move things with their hand, push the door open. They're interacting in a level that I haven't seen in the past. And it's very exciting to see that. Kind of mimics a little bit what was happening with the Tigers, where they have to move around and go to a new location. They're seeing that same movement of the actual booth, but then this time they actually have to be part of the art exhibit itself. So that's very exciting for me to see the visual element, the audio, and all of those interactive elements.
And Anita's mentioning the tiger statues, everybody. Anita has painted several of them throughout our community, and so we enjoy working with her in a number of different capacities as well. Everybody, we're talking with Anita and Corey and Missy here on episode 219 of our Love in Lebanon podcast, going deeper into the Lebanon Story Booth. And so I want to chat with you guys, too, about, so we have the retro phone booth. It's got the artwork. It was fabricated. ATP Welding did an amazing job of kind of bringing it back to functionality, more or less. And then Dynamark was able to wrap it, take Anita's design, and go forward with that. How are we able to capture that story, that spoken word art, the story sharing? How did that all come about? And the object that's sitting kind of behind our table here with the MP3 recorder, how did that all come to be?
Yeah, I was at a wedding not too long ago where you could pick up a phone and record a message to the bride and groom. So kind of thought that was really neat and kind of introduced me to that technology. There's always something new coming out. And so it was kind of neat to see that you could record a story or a message on an old type of phone booth. So I think that's kind of where we went. Luckily, we were able to locate a phone that looked like a payphone. So pretty cool that it fit right in with the booth, and able to retrofit that so that we can pull those stories off and then share those with the community.
Mm-hmm. And sharing with you, everybody, right now, there's story prompts, and you pick up the phone, there's a dial tone, it rings a couple times, and there's a message, and you leave your message after the beep. And there are prompts, though, of what question you will answer. This time around is, what's your favorite thing to do in Lebanon? Corey is someone that's kind of grown up here, and you're either I'm from the south side or the north side. What do you think that does for someone that is now, it's going to be on the story booth, it's going to be on the north side, south side, wherever, capturing all those stories. What do you think it does for someone who grew up here to be able to have their story kind of mimic or be very similar to someone on the opposite side of town?
Yeah, I think that's one of the more important pieces is, this, as we look at, say, downtown's kind of everybody's community, right? But we all want to have our own, I'm from down in this area or up in that area. So it enables everyone to have their voice for their specific neighborhood. But I think what we're going to find is they're remarkably similar. And where they're different, I think that's a wonderful learning point for us. As I was growing up, it was always the elementary that you went to. So I was the Perryworth kid, right? So from outside of town. And then you had, the between Hardy and Central and Stokes, they had their own kind of story, if you will. So I love that this is kind of that coming together, bringing together, and sharing really, history in the making. Yeah,
and you mentioned Perryworth. I mean, with how the whole kind of boundaries are drawn with LCSC, the schools are changing with, oh, by the way, the LEAP district and what that's doing, bringing in an influx of people. Our community is evolving, and then this is a chance to kind of have as we grow, we are all seeing that we're kind of doing this life thing together here in Lebanon. Ladies, it was amazing to me too, the number of people who said, we just moved here, or we are still in boxes, and we're just the last couple of weeks where we're bringing in they're bringing in whole families and things. Was that kind of mind blowing to you to see at the market there are people that were stepping up to the story booth, kind of scratching their heads as brand new residents? It seems like there were half dozen at least new residents that we saw at the story booth, guys.
Yeah, that was great to see. I love to see the amount of people that were willing to interact too. It shows that we're presenting a project that they're not just interested in, but they're willing to participate in and bring in their stories. Even though they're new, they're willing to share what they've noticed about the community. So we have that wide range of new perspective and those that have been here forever giving their feedback as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was really surprised because they were like, we don't really have a Lebanon story yet. And well, you do. It's just starting. It's the beginning. So yeah, I was really surprised at how many people we interacted with that said, we just moved here or we're new to the community. So gave us a chance to welcome them to the community. And it was really exciting to see that people are choosing to live in Lebanon, and they've got great reasons to be here. So.
And it's one of those things too. You mentioned, Anita, where you're having to interact with it, and it's a really great conversation piece. Of you don't really see a retro phone booth in downtown and now over by the library and moving around, but having it be like functioning and having it be that way.
Yeah, and I think the neat thing for me is that's bringing generations together, right? So just like Missy shared her story about middle school and sports, that's an experience that kids today don't have. They've not seen it. It's very foreign to them. So it's a great way for kids and grandkids to kind of connect with one or two generations up and have that conversation piece.
And that there's a gal that's on the graphics, everybody, that we met at the library. Anita and I met her on Saturday, where technology was not not something that she embraced fully. And so walking her through and showing her how that whole thing worked, she was able to then share, just it really kind of opened her up a little bit as far as sharing her story of life and her love of the library, and being able to have that kind of be her favorite thing in Lebanon was the library. But having that be like the education piece and seeing like petals of a flower kind of opening up of, now, yeah, this is kind of special. This is kind of cool.
Yeah. I feel like the elements that this group has added into the project shows a lot of great skill in bringing both the new stories and the old stories, and just a variety. Having questions like, what is your favorite thing to do in Lebanon, opens it up to those that are new to the area. They may only have one story or one thing they've seen. Or I actually had visitors that were from Zionsville. They don't even live in this area, but they interacted with it and they saw the prompt, what is your favorite thing to do in Lebanon? And they have a story from Lebanon. That's why they came. They love the markets. So it's good to see the variety of that. You see people that share their stories from forever ago, what they grew up with, or brand new things that bring them, even if they don't live here, they're still interacting with Lebanon because they found things here they love to come back to.
And so thanks to the Indiana Arts Commission for the grant funding to help make this happen. What happens, guys, to those comments, whether they be younger kiddos or some of the older folks? What happens eventually to all those comments that we have been recording and are going to potentially share with the community?
Yeah, so those will be transcribed and put on the website. So you can go through and you can read everyone's story and what their favorite thing to do in Lebanon is, or whatever the next prompt is. So you can kind of see, are you similar to others in your community? Do you think differently than others in your community? And just kind of, it's kind of just a fun way to get to know those who have interacted with the art piece, and, what they might have to say too. So, and then we also have Anita created a story booth character. So that's been kind of fun to interact with the public with. And he's everywhere, or she, coming up with a name. So that's been kind of fun to see that response from children as well as adults with that character.
And it's been amazing that Corey, you mentioned it earlier, that the multi-generational, because it is an adorable character, and we're asking for submissions of a name, and there are ones that are pretty funny and kind of out there and all those things, but we're seeing families that are all interacting and getting the stickers and the temporary tattoos and the t-shirts if they take part in the story booth deal. But this is one of those things that really not only bringing our community together, but it seems like it's kind of doing the same thing for families as well. Have you guys kind of seen that in either pictures or in real life as it's happening?
Yeah, definitely. Of course, the adults showing the kids, how to get in the phone booth. I know it sat outside of my office for about a month, and it was fun just to see people
How do I
try to open the door to a phone booth, because you got to push on the center of the door, and that really throws people off. And then you could see kids get in there and kind of not so sure on how to get back out. So that's been kind of fun to just observe from my office, but also just at the market, the adults interacting with the kids, and then that nostalgia on the adults' face when they're like, I've been here before. I've done this before. So
did you guys see too where the parents were kind of like, this is a kid thing, and then all of a sudden there was the ice kind of melted a little bit. Then it was kind of like, I kind of want to do this now. Oh yeah, I get a shirt for Yeah, I think I'm gonna do it now.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that too?
Absolutely, yes.
And
I feel like that's another element that the group did really well with. They incorporated elements that would be applicable to every age group. The character kind of brings the kids in, the stickers and all the merchandise that you have created with that brings in all ages. And then you have the familiar elements that those that have been here for a little bit longer would recognize as well.
long-term goals for this art project. This is something that as we mentioned, the prompt will change. The things will evolve, and you can see more information on our Lebanon Story Booth. There'll be a custom URL for it that we'll share at a later date when it's up and live. But the webpage is working under the community tab, and so it's right there. But long-term for the Story Booth, just continue to kind of get the art kind of stirring in our community. What do you think?
I think it's a living piece, right? So the great thing about the technology that we've installed there is it can really capture kind of anything of its time. So, right now it's, tell me a little bit about, your favorite thing in Lebanon. But, as we look 6 months from now, it's, hey, what's your favorite holiday tradition, or, anything along those lines. So it really is adaptable and moldable to really anything in its time. So I think that's one of the wonderful things about this specific art piece, is the fact that it is living and molding.
And what do you think it'll do, guys, for kind of artistic expression within our community? Do you think we'll see more spoken word pieces potentially, or physical art pieces to go along with some of the murals and tiger statues and things that have been sprinkled around the community? More of the creativity?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think it gets, like it did for me, just the reminder that stories are a part of art too. And it's a beautiful art form, whether it be a poem or somebody's biography. It's just a great way to get your thoughts and your feelings out there and your memories. So I think it's going to be something that can carry on, because there's always stories to share. And then it may spawn more of people wanting to share their stories in the written form. I could see, poetry nights or something like that. I've seen where you write stories on the sidewalks, I just think the possibilities are endless with this once we introduce the community to the written word and just bring those artists to the forefront as well.
Well, and I think too, it's a way to show the engagement in art. I think right now, as a city, we haven't done an amazing job of showcasing how the community is engaging in the art. And this is a visible thing that you both see and hear. The community engaging with that art. So hopefully our city leaders see that, and more importantly, hopefully our artists see that and see that, hey, this is a viable market for me to be creative within. And hopefully that drives the creativity and drives our city leaders to engage in that creativity as well.
Yeah, because we've seen what it does in other communities, and we're now beginning to see what it's doing in ours. And so, absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for listening to episode 219 of the Love in Lebanon podcast. We thank you for listening, but also thankful for the Indiana Arts Commission for the grant funding, and of course, thankful for Corey and Anita and Missy for joining us on the podcast. Guys, thanks for being here. Very much appreciated.
Thank you for having us.
More info on the Lebanon Story Booth is available on the copy portion, the text portion of this podcast episode. More episodes coming your way soon, everybody. Take care.